Hello and welcome to my review of the Genestealer Cults Aberrants. Now this set will set you back £25 and it includes 5 Aberrants on one sprue, might I add. They all come on these 32mm bases, which if you're familiar with Primaris Space Marines, they're the same size bases. They're kind of medium-sized models in a way. We'll do some size comparisons later on. These are actually the last kind of new models for me to review for Genestealer Cults, and I must thank you so much for your patience. I know it's taken about a year or so for me to cover all of the Genestealer Cults in drips and drabs. The last review being the Morph that Games Workshop decided to release individually, which was great. And then before that I did a review of the Tectonic Frag Drill and a review of kind of all of the new releases, but I had not at that point built these Aberrants. So in the set you get these 5, you get this quite exhaustive instruction guide, which is quite good. You've got the rules in there as well, which we'll go through at the end of the video. You've also got a nice colour guide. It's quite comprehensive. You've got this little bit of artwork and then this lovely little bit of artwork as well. So if aliens are your thing, Xenos are your thing, you can, you know, take a picture of this, put it on your wall or frame it or whatever you want to do. I still don't know what's happening with this head thing here, but someone please explain. There are some spare parts too, but let's face it, they can only really be used for Aberrants. Unfortunately, the set is limited in that they are only monopose models. They do have a couple of options, but some of the options override the previous options, if that makes sense. So if you want to make one specific type of Aberrant with Power Pick or Power Hammer, and also the Hypermorph, which is the Aberrant at the front, you can only have him with a Power Hammer or heavy improvised weapon. You can't have him with a Power Pick if you wanted to include that. I wanted to have 2 of each. I wanted to have 2 Power Picks and 2 Power Hammers, which I've done. But say you wanted this Aberrant with a Power Hammer, but you've already used the Power Hammer up here because it's got the 3 hands. You can't, unfortunately. So you have to read through the instruction guide quite intensely and make a note very early on which Aberrants you want holding which weapons. You have to sort of like flick back through, flick forward, and make a decision. Because if you don't like this Aberrant with a Power Pick, but you want to use the Power Hammer for this one, then later on you'll find out, oh, well, I now am stuck with this Power Pick Aberrant. For example, I'm happy with my choices in all of this. I really wanted the Aberrant swinging this Power Hammer overhead. I just also wanted an Aberrant with a Power Hammer sort of really low, a bit like the Hypermorph there, but unfortunately, yeah, you can't do that in some respects. And likewise with the Power Pick, if you wanted this Power Pick on him, you'd have to, you know, change it up a little bit. So we'll have a look at the models individually, and then we'll look at the spare parts, we'll do some size comparisons, and then we'll go straight into the rules. So here is the Hypermorph. This is kind of like the leader. You get 2 heads with the Hypermorph you can choose from. I believe you could choose this head, which has kind of got 2. You can't really see that, can you? But there you go. You've got kind of 2 heads combined in one, and I wanted to show the, you know, it's a Hypermorph. I wanted to show the morphing aspect of the Aberrants, in terms of there's like 2 Tyranids, 2 Genestealers in this same body, and they're kind of you know, fused together in a way. The second head you could have chosen for the Hypermorph is this one here with the little horn. But again, just 1 head. I didn't think that head stood out from the rest. This one does. Likewise with the weapon I've chosen. I could have gone for, these are specific to the Hypermorph by the way, I could have gone for this Power Hammer, which is fantastic because it's square at both ends and it does stand out. But I went for this, I say lamppost. It's just a sign, isn't it, with concrete at the back, at the bottom. And I wanted to, you know, their weapon skill is 3+ anyway, and I didn't want that being handicapped to 4+ if you use a Power Hammer. I wanted the Hypermorph, which does have more attacks, to be able to use them to full effect with this improvised weapon. A load of detail on this model. Like I say, I really like this concrete with some of the iron, with some of the metal work coming out of it, and I love the little tail. He's the only one with a tail. All the rest of them haven't grown tails yet. It's because he's the hypermorph, and this is actually an extra weapon in combat as well, might I add. So that's the hypermorph, the aberrant hypermorph. Then I've got these two power pick aberrants. One's got a sort of flat-headed power pick, and the other one has a double-headed pick. This one isn't holding anything, but it's got this really nice claw going on, called a Rending Claw. And yeah, again, I've chosen this head that's like a little bit melted on one side. He's got 3 feet, might I add. The only one with 3 feet. It's sort of like another foot that's merged out of one, which is quite cool. And he's the only one, and he's got 2 arms. There's one other that has 2 arms, but the rest have 3. So again, that's quite an important point. This power pick armed aberrant has, well, he's got 2 arms but 3 hands, and he's got this little dress that he's wearing. And then he's holding I want to say bowling ball. No, it's a human skull. Maybe he's out for some bowling. He's about to roll a strike. Who knows? Again, you've got a choice of heads here. I think for 2 of them, you had a choice of about 4 heads, and the other 2, it was again about 4 as well. So I've got some spare, but you can only use them on 2, if that makes sense. You can only use a certain number on 2 of them, and another certain number on the other 2. Oh, he's getting excited. Then we've got this one here. It's quite a humanoid kind of aberrant, not many mutations going on, so I've given him the head with 3 eyes just to, you know, equal the balance a little bit. But yeah, he's got 2 legs, 2 feet, 2 arms, 2 hands, so he's probably the least morphed as the rest of them, and he's got that power hammer. And then finally, one of my favourites, if not the favourite, this guy. I've given him a snarling tongue there, swaying in the wind. He's got a bit of a cloth going on, and he's got, I want to say 3 arms. It's, yeah, I would say that's 3 arms. That definitely, that bit there counts as 3 arms. And it's hurling this huge power hammer down on some unfortunate Space Marine or civilian, who knows. But yeah, definitely one of my favourites. So there you go, that's all 5 of them. Let's roll in the spare parts. Here's some I mined earlier, and I've hoarded for my collection. So we've got, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 heads, 6 different heads. So you've got this one, a bit more of a mutation and a little tongue. This one with the tongue out again. This one with another tongue. This one has just thrown up all of his breakfast. No, actually that's just part of the Genestealer tendrils and things, feeder tendrils I think they're called. Easier for milkshakes and things, because you know how these paper straws are these days, they're bloody awful. And then you've got this guy, and then you've got this head, which is clearly for the hypermorph alternate head, and then this one's got a bit of a chain, and another one with a tongue. I don't know why they've all got their tongue out. Please someone explain, but it seems like you know, a reoccurring thing. You've got this funky thing here, which is like a claw and a power pick, so that would have been one of the other options. I think maybe that one, maybe, or probably that one. And then this one here, part of a spine and hurling a rock. I didn't really want them hurling rocks, I'd rather have them hurling skulls. And then this is the other power hammer. So I think I could have probably put the power hammer on him, but I wanted 2 of each just to balance it. And then this guy's got 3 arms as well, or sort of 2.5. Yeah, it's difficult to keep track now of all these limbs. But anyway, they're all the spare parts. So I think somewhere along the line I could have had 3 power picks and a power hammer, and then the hypermorph with either a power hammer or a improvised weapon. But the maximum number of power hammers you can have here would be 3, including the hypermorph. So I could have given the hypermorph power hammer and have those 2, obviously, and then these 2 with the picks, or I could have had 3 picks and either the improvised weapon and the hammer, or 2 hammers. So there you go. But again, I didn't want to affect the hypermorph's number of attacks, because typically the sergeants do have that extra attack, and you want to put it to best use. Anyway, there you go. They're all the spare parts, so not many, and yes, unfortunately you're only going to be able to use them for aberrants, but in a good way. That means that if you get another set, you could have lots more power picks, I guess. You know, you could have 4 of them with power picks, or you could have, but you're still going to have a maximum of only 3 power hammers, because that hypermorph only has that access to that power hammer. Hope all that makes sense. If you've got any questions, please do put it in the comments below, and me or the community will obviously help you out. Okay, size comparisons. Right, I've got quite a few Genestealer Cult models out and about, roaming about, lurking. Hardly lurking, I don't know. Here is the Abominant. Now this is the HQ choice for your Genestealer Cult army if you're going down the aberrant kind of route. And the Abominant is definitely the one I would choose if I was putting aberrants in my army. The difference between this Abominant and the aberrants is that he's got 1 extra strength at strength 6, he's got 1 extra toughness 5, he's got the same number of attacks as the hypermorph 3, but he's got a better leadership of at 8, and he's also got things like regenerative flesh, and he's got an ability, the Chosen One, whereby each unmodified hit roll of a 6 for attacks made in the fight phase by friendly cult aberrant units within 6 inches of this model scores 2 hits instead of 1. Excellent. Even more of a choice to get your power picks at the ready. So you get 6s with your hit rolls, and you're getting 2 hits instead of 1, but he has to be close by to them. And he has the bestial vigor, the same as the aberrants themselves. Something else you may want to put near them is the Biophagus. Right here, this guy, this creepy looking scientist guy with the lab coat and weird staff made from Medicae apparatus. He is going to enhance your aberrant unit using a D3 that could add 1 strength, 1 toughness, or 1 attack. So he's also got an alchemist familiar. And that injector goad, I love the word goad, it's very nice. It's a bit like toad, but funnier, I want to say. Anyway, so yeah, they're the 2 units you want to put near your aberrants. The Biophagus very close by, and the Abominant not that far behind to boost those 6 hits, and he is a heavy hitter in combat too. So I know I went down on a bit of a rules tangent then, but let's do some size comparisons with other Genestealer Cult models. So here we go. Here is the Magus, and here is a Patriarch. So compared to the Magus, aberrants are a little bit shorter because they're hunched. I mean, if they stood up really tall, I don't know, like this guy, then they would be similar height. It's just all of their legs seem to be squatting slightly. But compared to the Abominant is a bit bigger, bit thicker, way more detail. But even the Abominant doesn't have a tail, which is really quite odd. It does have this cute little familiar though. It's like hiding me on his leg, like surprise. Anyway, compared to the Patriarch, of course, if we just do it model for model, yeah, the Patriarch's way bigger, of course. And then next to some Imperial models, oh my gosh, the aberrants are quite small, really. Space Marines are same size, if not a little bit taller, and the Primaris are a fair bit taller. You know, but that's because they're all hunched about. But there you go. Hope that has helped you sort of figure out the size of these aberrants. We've now found ourselves in a dark, damp corner of the review where I look at all of the rules for the aberrant. So you'll find them in your brand new Warhammer 40,000 Genestealer Cults Codex, which came out last year in 2019. Lovely codex, really fleshed out the army. I'm so happy I managed to pick it up. And the channel allowed me to purchase all of the Genestealer Cult models and review them all. I'm still going through them using this 8th edition codex, so stay tuned because there will be more Genestealer Cult reviews out there coming soon. So, Aberrants, they're an elite choice and they're a power points cost of a 7. They cost 16 points per model, which does not include the war gear. Power hammers are 4 points, power picks are 9 points. So power picks cost more than the power hammers, bear that in mind. The heavy improvised weapon does cost 10 points and the hypermorph tail is free. So the unit contains 5 aberrants. It can include up to 5 additional aberrants, so you can have 10 in one of these units, which is pretty decent. For every 5 models in the unit, 1 aberrant hypermorph can take the place of 1 aberrant. Each aberrant is armed with a Rending Claw and either a heavy power hammer or power pick. Each aberrant hypermorph is armed with Rending Claw, hypermorph tail, and either a heavy power hammer or heavy improvised weapon. So the hypermorph has got 3 weapons there if you want to have one as a hypermorph. So the stat line reads from the aberrants, they are a movement of 6 inches, weapon skill 3+, ballistic skill 6+, strength 5, toughness 4, 2 wounds, 2 attacks, leadership 7 and a save of 5+. So they've got a high strength, they've got an alright toughness, they've only got 2 wounds and they've only got 2 attacks. Their weapon skill is quite good at 3+ though. Their hypermorph has the same stat line but has 3 attacks instead of 2. That's the only difference there. So the hypermorph's weapons then, you can have the heavy improvised weapon, which is a melee weapon, strength ×2, so that's strength 10, AP -1 and damage of 2, and you make 2 hit rolls for each attack made with this weapon. So you've got 3 attacks there, you've now got 6 attacks at strength 10 at damage 2. Pretty decent. Yes, the AP is not amazing, but still. You can equip him with a heavy power hammer instead, which is a strength ×2 again, so that's strength 10, AP -3 this time, and a damage of 3, but when attacking with this weapon you must subtract 1 from the hit roll. So unfortunately now, instead of 6 attacks at strength 10, you've now only got 3 attacks at strength 10, but you do get that AP -3, and you do get damage 3. So it's up to you whether you think that's worth it for the extra AP, but I'm not a huge fan of weapons that you know, handicap your roll, especially if the roll isn't already that good. It means that you're only going to be hitting 50% of the time with 3 attacks. It's not the best, is it? He also has the hypermorph tail. It's the strength of the user, which is still 5, AP -1 and damage of 1, and each time the bearer fights it can make 1 additional attack with this weapon. So you're getting that extra attack there at strength 5, not too bad. Now power picks, they are strength of the user, which will be 5, AP -2, damage D3. Each time a model with a Rending Claw makes an attack with this weapon, it can make 1 additional attack with its Rending Claw. It means that when you're using the power picks with those 2 attacks, you're going to be getting your Rending Claw attack too, which you're not going to get with your heavy power hammer. Bear that in mind. So, Rending Claw, it's strength of the user, which will be 5, AP -1 and a damage of 1, and each time you make a wound roll of 6+ for that weapon, that hit is resolved with an AP characteristic of -4. So the power pick, although it's not as better AP, you know, it's AP -2 instead of AP -3, you do get another attack with the Rending Claw that could give you an AP of -4, but you need 6s with that. Abilities, Cult Ambush, Unquestioning Loyalty, and Bestial Vigor or Bestial Vigor. When inflicting damage on a model in this unit, reduce the damage characteristic of the attack by 1 to a minimum of 1. In addition, roll a d6 each time a model in this unit loses a wound. On a 5+, that wound is not lost. That's pretty good. So incoming attacks there, you have to reduce the damage by 1, and also when they do lose wounds, which they probably will because their toughness, I say, is only 4, their saves are 5+, and they've only got 2 wounds each anyway. It's nice that you get like a 5+ feel no pain. Keywords, Tyranids, Genestealer Cults, Infantry and Aberrants. So there you go, that's all the rules for the Aberrants. I think they're really nice little models. I suppose they are quite pricey at £25 for 5, but certainly nowhere near as pricey as the Howling Banshees at £32.50 for 5. But still, I think they do a good job. Yes, they're not the toughest. I would have liked their toughness to be a bit better, but their save of 5+ is yeah, I mean, look at it. They're not really wearing any armour, are they? Let's face it. So to even have a save 5+ is quite good. I would have thought they would have benefited from an extra wound. However, the Bestial Vigour kind of covers that. And I'm pleased that they still have a strength of 5, because those weapons, those power hammers, if you use those, or the heavy improvised weapon with the hypermorph, doubles that strength up to 10, which is quite horrific, even if they don't have the best AP. So that's one of the reasons why I took a mixture of both. They're kind of suited for different eventualities, and then if you pair them with that Abominant and put a Biophagus nearby, you're really going to be able to get the most out of them as possible, and you know, ambush unsuspecting units. Now, I would use them against vehicles to crack them open. I'd use them against kind of elite forces to bog them down, but I wouldn't use them on hordes because they don't have a large number of attacks, and they can't take a lot of attacks either with their normal saves. But yeah, using them in conjunction with the Biophagus could be a very fun cocktail to see what comes out of them. Anyway, what do you guys think of the models and the rules? Do you take them in your army? I would like to see more of them. I'd like to see a bigger one, like a patriarch-sized aberrant maybe. I think that would be quite horrific, but there we go. That's just my take on these aberrants. Thank you so much for your patience, for allowing me to get these reviews out to you eventually. Like I say, there will be more Genestealer Cult reviews coming out just to cover every unit in the book. I've already made many videos already, and I'm just waiting to release this one before I can release the rest. So stay tuned to the channel. Most probably I'll make a Genestealer Cult playlist and bundle them all in there. Put your comments and thoughts down below. It'd be great to hear from you. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. For the Norn Queen.